is 9 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Robert Nelson. Yeah, Impacting Coffee. So Impacting Coffee is a welcoming conversation with amongst the nonprofit community here in Albuquerque and all across the state. In fact, because we're on Zoom, that actually allows us to go across the state. And we've had folks from Las Cruces and even even Lordsburg in the Boot Heel of New Mexico and Gallup and Farmington. And so it's been really great to be able to extend our reach to nonprofits outside of Central New Mexico specific ways. So I'm joined and very thankful for our team of Impacting Coffeeers. So that's Jermaine Mitchell, whose Zoom we are on today. Thank you, Jermaine, and to Denise as well, who helps us coordinate and reach out to folks and get people scheduled for speakers. And in fact, we are booked until like May. So thank you, Jermaine, and thank you, Denise, for finding folks. Really appreciate that. So if you're interested in speaking in Impacting Coffee, please contact us. Our email is impactandcoffee@gmail.com. It's really easy to remember. You can like us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube, of which you can find this video probably within a day or two. And other announcements we have for Impacting Coffee, we have specifically a small award, $2,500 award called our Next Gen In Award, which is for youth working in nonprofit under the age of 25. Working to build capacity for projects for our nonprofit organization. So if you know somebody, if you're working with somebody already under the age of 25, give us a ring, email us at impactingcoffee@gmail.com, and we can answer any questions. It's a very short application too, so we can gladly send that out to folks once if we hear from anyone too. So also, we are looking for volunteers. I know some of you may be on our email list, so we are also looking to add volunteers to add to our planning team with Jermaine and Denise and I, just so we can have some more capacity to do some more stuff. I think I mentioned earlier, if folks weren't on the call just yet, we want to do in-person events, but I know that requires a lot of stuff. So it requires a lot of capacity. So we need help with that. If anyone's interested in volunteering, again, our email is impactingcoffee@gmail.com, and we'll gladly send more information your way. It is Gratitude Tuesday, so if you're joining us on the call today over Zoom, please introduce yourself in the chat, your name, your pronouns, your organization, and anything that you're really, really grateful for this Tuesday morning. Jermaine or Denise, is there anything you're super grateful for on this Tuesday?
I am grateful spring is in the air somewhere.
I was about to say that it's that first morning where you come out and it's not just cold, it's like a fresh kind of cold.
That's a good way to put it. I know. Well, and with spring, I love spring. It's my favorite season here, but it's also the bringer of allergies and daylight savings time. So just remember this weekend, we're going to spring forward. So we're going to lose an hour of sleep. It's okay. But it's going to be a lot lighter outside very soon, and spring is definitely in the air. So again, introduce yourselves in the chat if you can, your name, your organization, your pronouns, and anything you might be grateful for on this Gratitude Tuesday. It is 9:05. I think I'm going to kick it over to our wonderful guest today. His name is Chad Cooper. He is I believe, the new CEO of the One Hope Financial Institute. Really, really glad you're here. Really, really excited to hear more about the financial institution and the work that you all are doing. How are you doing today? Thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself too.
Oh, well, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm sitting here thinking about all the gratitude or things I should be have gratitude for. I think for me, the big one is my family, and for them giving me the freedom to try to stand up an organization like OHFI and be involved in a lot of other activities, and so I'm incredibly grateful for them. And actually did an interview a few weeks ago, and one of the things that came across out of that interview was how do you balance all this stuff, and what are the things you like to do in your free time? And one of the things I said, my family gives me a lot of support, so I really try to be very protective of my weekends and shut everything down and spend as much time with them. So that's my gratitude. So thank you for having me here. I'm Chad Cooper. I'm the CEO of OHFI. That's One Hope Financial Institution. We are a new community lender here in town. We're formed as an L3C, which is a low-income limited liability company, which is a rare type of business designation for New Mexico. But essentially, as an organization, it gives us the ability, it gives us more flexibility in how we raise money. We can raise money. We can take on equity investments. We can take on PRIs, program-related investments from nonprofits and foundations. We also have a nonprofit side, which is the OHFI Foundation, where we're able to take on more traditional grants. But our goal and our mission really is to target and lend money and invest in underrepresented and underestimated entrepreneurs in New Mexico. And that's focusing primarily on Black-owned businesses, Native American-owned businesses, people of color owned businesses, and trying to have more of an impact in those communities. So we're excited to be here. We're excited to really have an impact on the state as much as we can. We have a strong leadership team in place. We're also building a strong team internally, and we're just excited to be here and help our fellow businesses. So what else would you like to know?
You mentioned some of your founders. Tell us who some of those folks are. I know some of the names from your press release, but obviously I think our community knows that too. But tell us what precipitated the need for this in our city. I mean, I think it's obvious, but I think for folks who don't know, I think that's something that we need to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 4 founding members. Ken Carson, who most of us know is the owner of Nexus Brewery, but Ken was also a bank president for decades, so he brings a ton of banking experience to the table, a ton of lending experience. 2 of our founding members, Charles Ashley and Alex Horton, both have done a ton of work in community impact. Alex is the founder of the International District Economic Development Center. Both Charles and Alex are running micro lending programs through their organizations. And our 4th founding member is Everett Hill, who has been involved in the nonprofit community for a very long time. So about 3-ish years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, it's really these ideas started swirling around how can we impact the community? How can we help serve Black businesses? How can we help bring capital and serve the capital needs of our underrepresented businesses? And so the group initially got together and really started discussing these concepts of creating a Black-owned bank. And they worked with some other folks who are known in the community and have impacted the community, people like Sarita Nair, Vanessa Roanhorse, so people who have been involved in the community for a while. Over time, they initially wanted to create this idea of the bank, like I mentioned, and as the planning kind of went through, they ended up settling on creating a community loan fund. So in 2021, the organization was able to get its first grant, which was there to stand up operations. So we received a grant in November of 2021 from the Kellogg Foundation, received an initial $1 million to stand up operations. So the group really spent the bulk of 2022 doing a ton of research, a ton of planning, really setting the foundation and laying the groundwork to build the organization. And toward the end of 2022 was when they put out, they began a search to hire a CEO. I happened to be, so I know one of your questions was how I got involved with the organization. I happened to be meeting with one of the founders, and he mentioned that they were doing a search for a CEO and suggested that I apply. And so I did toward the end of the year, and they hired me in January. My background has been in financial services. For the last 20 years, I've served as a financial advisor, but also been involved pretty heavily in the community in a number of nonprofit spaces with UNM Alumni Association, with the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, the Black Chamber. I'm the vice chairman of the board for the Albuquerque Black Chamber, and so I've been involved with the community and in particular with the business community for some time. In addition to running my own financial practice, I've also stood up some individual companies myself, and so it felt like a good fit, not only bringing the financial background but also a number of relationships to the table to help get this organization up and running and launched. And so they hired me in January, and for the last 2 months, I mentioned at a meeting the other day, if I had hair, it would be on fire. It would be totally burning at this point, because we've just been going 1,000 miles an hour. And I think Raquel and Darlene, who are on the call today, can attest to that. We've been adding consultants and staff. We've been working to raise capital. We've been working to build out our internal infrastructure. We've been working to raise funding, build out our fundraising platform. We did receive an initial lending grant from the city. So we do have capital to start lending. Our goal is to begin lending sometime in the second quarter of this year. And so we're building out things internally and externally, building relationships with a number of partners in town, including West is a big partner of ours. We're working on a relationship with the Anderson School at UNM. I mentioned the city. We're partnering with the Black Chamber. We're partnering with the International District Economic Development Center. So we've gotten a lot of traction, a lot of excitement in the community. People want to work with us. People are excited about our mission and what we're trying to do, and we're just going for it. It's exciting.
That sounds really exciting. And you mentioned hair on fire. Mike, second quarter is in 23 days, sir. So
well, the second quarter ends in what, 83 days. So
very true. So, I mentioned recovery earlier, but like, obviously you're raising a lot of capital right now to start providing services, but where do you feel Albuquerque is? This is probably a broader question. Where do you feel Albuquerque is in terms of its economic recovery, and how do you feel like you all can impact that recovery in a positive way?
Yeah, I feel like there are a number of entrepreneurs out there. There are a number of businesses out there that are growing, that are trying to expand. That are trying to seek capital. We have a strong spirit of entrepreneurship, and it's always felt like we've had that. And so, you see businesses trying to grow. You see people trying to existing businesses trying to raise capital. You see new entrepreneurs budding and trying to bring their ideas to the marketplace. We recently did a search for the Black Chamber and found that we have over 600, just Black businesses alone, over 600 verified Black businesses throughout the state. And so there are a number of folks out there. The challenge is access to capital. It's always a challenge for most people getting access to capital. It becomes a tougher proposition historically for Black and Brown businesses, for a number of reasons, whether that's systemic racism, whether that's having the right tools, having the resources, having the background and the education and all of these things that have made it difficult to get access to capital. And then on top of that, historically, for our businesses, if they were able to receive capital, typically that capital has been received or has been granted at a pretty significant rate of interest, which also provides some or has barriers to it, right? you're paying exorbitant amounts on capital, and the cost of that capital prevents the business from reinvesting in itself or reinvesting in its community. And so historically, we've faced a number of these challenges. One of the main goals for OHFI will be to provide character-based lending. So not just relying on a person's credit score, for example, but really taking time to get to know the business owner, taking time to get a real picture of their financial situation. On top of that, making sure that they're committed to growing their business and taking them through a very targeted training program and providing them the information and providing them the tools to make sure that they're taking the steps necessary to be a successful and a sustainable business, and giving us comfort to know that we can invest in them, and that we're all on the same page, and that the business owner is buying into our process and to the education that we'll provide.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I love that you mentioned that, there are over 600 Black businesses here in Albuquerque. I think that's really awesome. Like, can you tell us a little bit, what kind of projects are you really excited about right now? Like, and I imagine you're hearing from a lot of folks, but is there any ones that you're specifically excited about, y'all are like working on right now? If you care to divulge, if not, it's okay too.
Well, we're still sort of in the capital raise and in the internal programming. So some of I will tell you, a couple of the things that I'm super excited about right now really are internal. I've spent a good chunk of my career, my life, providing financial education, financial literacy training, either through the chamber or through my own practice or personally with organizations around town. And that education piece is really exciting for me. And so internally, we've been developing our own customized technical assistance program that will guide people through the lending process, or that follows and tracks people through the lending process and through the loan issue process and providing the ongoing education. And I'll tell you that piece has really excited me. We have had some conversations with some business owners who are interested in working with us and already coming to seek capital. Some of those conversations have been really exciting, and understanding what the type of work that these business owners are trying to do. It's been a little disheartening in a way because we're not ready to start lending yet. So it's tough to tell folks, okay, we're excited, give us a couple months. So we've begun tracking and providing those business owners an opportunity through our website to start submitting inquiries, so that when we begin taking applications in the second quarter, that we have a number of those organizations lined up that we can go back and reach out to and let them know that we're ready. But the interest has been incredibly exciting. The internal processes and everything that we're putting together, we feel will make us a strong organization, a sustainable organization, and ultimately an organization that has a significant impact in the community.
That's really great.
I always go to my crawfish coffee after I finish talking. This is for Jermaine. Happy post Mardi Gras.
Well, it's also, it's very poignant. Yes. You mentioned a tax structure that we may not have all really understood. So could you talk about the way that the financial institute is set up in terms of its structure a little bit more, and what does that mean for organizations wanting to get involved for you, with y'all, and how does that affect the loaning process, the investment process, et cetera? Yeah.
So an L3C, again, we're set up as it's a low profit limited liability company. So essentially functions like a benefit corporation, or it gives foundations an opportunity to invest in us and satisfy their 5% goal for giving, right? So let's say you have a foundation and their role is to provide grants to nonprofits, and let's say they're trying to hit that 5% goal and they're not quite there. And since we're not set up as a 501c3, we can't receive a traditional grant through the L3C. But the foundation can invest in us as an L3C by issuing or providing what's called a program related investment. It satisfies their need or their need to give to an organization to hit their 5% number. That investment does become a non-taxable event for the foundation. We then take on that capital and we meet whatever program related goal the foundation has set aside. So it could be a financial goal. It could be a social impact goal. So for example, we receive a program related investment and that foundation says, you know what, we want to see 50 jobs created in the Native American community, right? So that becomes our targeted goal for those resources. And it, like I said, it becomes it allows the foundation to meet their giving goal. It's still a tax favored transaction for the foundation. It provides us the capital again to turn around and either lend out or invest in these underrepresented groups. And that I'll say too, with the L3C, it's like I said, it's pretty rare. I don't think there are too many organizations with that structure, particularly in New Mexico. I think there's only like 6 or 8 states that allow for L3Cs. So we're actually structured. Our organization is established as a Vermont company. So for tax purposes, we still function in New Mexico as an LLC. So the L3C format is really its primary tax impact is how we take on investments. It doesn't necessarily have an impact in terms of how we file. We still file as any LLC partnership would.
Thanks for that. That is really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty exciting. I mean, I've been around finance for a very long time. I know a lot of folks that I've talked to, CPAs that I've talked to. That structure is new for a lot of folks here. So it's been a little bit of a learning process for everyone. But the organization worked with an attorney who specializes in these types of structures, and it made sense for the founders to go this route.
Yeah, well, I'm just really glad that there's another financial mechanism for investing to give out money to folks here in our community. I think our infrastructure here has been not as big as it could be. We definitely need more money here, I think, and I think people will probably agree with that in a lot of ways. So yeah. I know you're in the beginning, you're doing the capital raising and fundraising here, but what are some of the big picture goals for you all and your team at this point?
Well, I'll answer that. I want to go back to the thing you said too. We do need more financial resources, but also we need organizations that really stay committed to serving our under-resourced and our underserved communities. We had this conversation last week, and one of the things that I mentioned, we have larger goals as an organization, but one of the things that really drives me and drives our leadership is staying committed to our core mission, which is to serve communities of color. And we've got a group of people who that's really the driver. it's not sure, as an organization, we would like to be profitable and be a long sustaining organization and be successful. But staying committed to the goal of serving folks who have felt underserved, who felt ignored and felt not listened to and neglected, and that's a huge driver for us. So our larger goals is to grow the organization, to continue to raise enough capital to invest throughout the state, and eventually grow. I should say, shorter term goals is to advance from being a traditional community lender to getting certified as a community development financial institution, a CDFI. There's a process that we'll need to go through for that later, and we'll start that process later in the year. Longer term process is to potentially grow into a credit union or possibly a bank longer term. So we do have larger goals as an organization, but but our initial goal is to really start getting money into a number of our underserved businesses.
Thank you. That's really great. I agree with you. I think losing sight is always kind of a challenge. Like when we get these kind of big kind of dreamy kind of initiatives, right? Like we need to keep in mind like who we're trying to serve in a lot of ways. And so, yeah.
I mentioned this last week. We had a roundtable discussion with a number of community organizations, and one of the significant events that impacted my life, and Jermaine will appreciate this, was Hurricane Katrina. During Katrina, I had just started my career as a financial advisor. I began that career in 2003. Katrina hit in 2005. And when Katrina hit, I was in Santa Fe. I was at the Bishop's Lodge. Like, it was a beautiful day. It was sunny. Might as well have been on another planet. And but the real driver for me, my dad is a paralyzed veteran. My dad's paralyzed from waist down. He was injured in Vietnam. And whenever a hurricane was coming, my dad was always the first one to say, hey, we got to get out of town. We got to go. And through a series of circumstances, his brother, for whatever reason, didn't want to evacuate. So his mother, my grandmother, didn't want to evacuate. So my dad didn't want to leave her. The rest of my family did evacuate. When the flooding came into the city, my dad and my grandmother went missing. And they were missing for about 4 days. And so if you can imagine, my dad's in a wheelchair, my grandmother was starting some early stages of dementia. And so they were both missing for about 4 days. And so, our family was panicking. My mother was panicking. Cell service was down, so there was no contact. And it was these 4 days where, we could see people on television, right? We could see the crowd scenes. We could see all the folks outside of the convention center, all the horrible things we heard about there, all the horrible things we heard about inside the Superdome over that week, really. And knowing that my dad was sort of mixed up in all that. And then seeing who all those people were, right? And so you saw these thousands of Black people with seemingly no assistance, with no help. And right after that, once we did find my dad, someone saw him on a crowd scene on the news and let us know. But that was on like day 4. And so the next day, that Friday, my cousin, who's a state trooper, he went in he went in plain clothes but armed, and just sort of went up behind my dad, and my grandmother was there, and just sort of wheeled them out of the crowd, and they were able to escape. But having gone through that and kind of seeing how there were a number of people who were just helpless, right? And with very little support from government, and that was just a huge driver for me to start doing financial literacy courses. So we actually started a training program in late 2005 and all through 2006, and we called it it was just financial education for African Americans. That was the title. We promoted it through some of the Black churches here. We promoted it through Ronnie Wallace's magazine, The Perspective. And every month for a year, we put on these financial education courses, and they were open to anyone. They were free. We provided lunch, and that driver to help people and provide information has just sort of stuck with me over the years. And so being able to carry that through this organization is something that I'm incredibly proud to do and excited to do.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that story. You mentioned, so on that note, on that last little note, you mentioned that y'all are developing your own kind of educational sessions too. Could you talk a little bit more about those and as how that relates to what you were just talking about?
Yeah. So so as we take people through the lending process and through the intake process, a big part of what we're going to do is meet people where we are, where they are, right? We'll have some business owners that really, they're successful, their business plans are solid, and we'll be able to, I guess, take more of a traditional approach. But chances are we're going to have a significantly larger group where they will need assistance with business plans. So we'll need assistance with understanding how to read cash flow statements. We'll be able to take them specifically through a process that helps them develop their business plans, that will help them learn how to read cash flow statements, that will help them understand how to put together their loan packages. In a sense, it's almost like it's almost like a financial planning process, in a sense, where you're really sort of meeting people where they are. You're taking them through the same process, but you're providing them the necessary information that they need. Some of that, I should say, pretty much all of that work will be done internally. We'll be working initially with West, and we'll be leveraging some of their tools as well. We'll be partnering with UNM and with some of the business students from UNM, but essentially that learning process we will be driving as an organization to make sure that we're meeting our business partners where they are. I was actually just talking to a business leader here in town a few weeks ago, and he mentioned he was working with a business owner who's had a relatively successful business for over 10 years, but this particular business owner still didn't know how to write a check, right? So it's some of these basic financial skills and tools that we'll be able to provide internally, everywhere from something as basic as understanding budgeting and writing a check to more complex business planning and forecasting and creating pro formas and P&Ls. It really just depends on the individual. So
that's really great. I just looked at the clock. It's 9:36. We are just chugging along. I want to make sure that we open up for questions from the audience. If there's anybody that has questions for Chad this morning, feel free to either unmute yourself, or you can add something in the chat, or even just a comment or even a question on some of the work that Chad's talking about, especially.
I just want to comment, Chad. This has been really great to hear. I joined the call late, so I apologize. I am so inspired by what you're doing. It's really, really cool to hear. So just wanted to say thanks.
Oh, well, thank you. I didn't catch who that was.
Oh, sorry. My name's Trish Lopez.
nice.
I was just saying that I really admire what you're doing. It's
Oh.
very inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that comment. It has been and it's been a treat to be included in this endeavor.
I have a quick question. This is Jermaine. My question is, individuals who want information on how do you qualify for a business loan?
Mhm.
How are you sharing that information? Because so many individuals are thinking, I will never qualify, so they don't listen to the opportunity.
Mhm.
So I'm just wondering, how are you sharing that information?
Yeah. A good chunk of that information will be available on our website. The website will launch April 7th. We are also developing a good bit of our social media messaging, which will, it'll obviously we want to focus on events and things that we're doing in the community, but also we intend to also provide educational tools and snippets and bits of information so that that people can feel a little bit more comfortable in coming to speak with us. Another part of our community outreach and some of our community planning is to go and meet people where they are and try to have informal conversations with them to discuss the process and build up buy-in in the organization. And so one of the it's a good question, Jermaine, and it actually, I'll tell you, I've dealt with that for over 20 years as a financial advisor as well, right? You have people who are afraid or don't want to go see a financial advisor because they don't feel like they have the resources, or they're going to waste somebody's time, or they're scared, or they're uncomfortable, and all these different emotions that people go through. So it's really not that different here, having those conversations and taking these complex concepts, right? Whether it's complex lending concepts or complex financial concepts, and really trying to explain them to people in a way that's understandable, that makes them feel comfortable, that makes them feel relaxed. We had some good conversations, Raquel and I actually, with one of our board members last week. We had some good conversations around building good, strong relationships through this process of not just, going through a cookie cutter lending process, but really providing education and comfort and building true relationships and partnerships through our process. And so,
Add if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
I also want to add that I think it's important that we are basing our lending based on relationship lending. I think a big part of the fear and hesitance from our members or the community members that are looking for these types of loans or looking for funding to start up is the fact that they're afraid because, maybe they weren't successful at one point, or they're having some financial issues. I think that's a lot of where people's fear stems from. And I think basing our lending on a relationship base, giving them those tools and building that relationship and giving them the education that they need is going to be a huge, a huge impact on getting them through that door.
Yeah, 100%. So hopefully that answered the question.
That's really helpful. I appreciate you both. Thanks, Raquel. Anyone else have any questions? You're welcome to unmute yourself or place it in the chat, or your questions in the chat. I know I see some folks still introducing themselves. Awesome. Thank you. Hello, Emily.
Hi, my name's Camille Vasquez. I'm from the South Valley Economic Development Center. I think everything that you all are doing, sounds great. It's much needed, and I appreciate you talking about it. I have a couple of questions about the type of loan. Sorry if I missed it, but either like the type of loan or grant that you guys have available. And then the amounts, I don't know if you could touch base on those, just because we want to definitely refer people and, um, refer people your way so we could give them better access to these opportunities too.
Yeah. So as of now, we are looking generally at about 3 different types of lending, depending on, again, meeting our business owners where they are. So we'll be looking at and don't hold me to these numbers. These are just some initial planning numbers that we're working through, but we're looking at initial, what we call credit builder type loans, for as a sort of a first level for someone, who would be considered a higher or a much higher risk, right? So those caps will be looking at around $1,000. And then we'll be looking at our kind of our first loan, which would be up to about 25,000. And then our next loans would be up to a range of around 50,000. As we start to build more of our capacity, we'll open up to larger lending. A big part of our mission is to help our businesses grow, build up strong relationships with our businesses, provide enough education to our businesses to where they can eventually, graduate from working with us to being able to go to a larger bank and qualify and be bankable for a larger loan beyond what we would offer down the line. So, but that's sort of our initial target, and then as we grow, we start looking at targeting, 6-figure loans down the road. But in this first year or two, that'll be our target range for lending.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll keep it open for any other questions or comments, but I just lost my question. Shoot.
Well, while you're thinking about your question, I just put our website in the chat. Our website is, like I mentioned, is not up and active yet. We do have a splash page on the site now with a comment option for people who do have interest in learning more about us or getting or submitting inquiries. They can go to the comment page and provide a feedback or provide questions. Those questions do go directly to Raquel. And like I mentioned, we'll be compiling all those questions and inquiries. I know some people that might be requests for future lending. In some cases, it just may be questions about the organization, but we definitely welcome the questions and the interest.
Thanks, Chad. Well, and knowing that I know it's 9:45. The time just flew this morning, so I really appreciate all the work that y'all do, and this. I'm really excited about this really new project that's going on in our community, and looking forward to the work that y'all are going to do here soon. What are ways our community can get involved with y'all, like right now? Like what are some things you need? Like what are some things we can help y'all with or support y'all with?
A big part of what we're doing is staffing. So we are looking for potential lenders. We're looking for potential development people. We're looking for potential HR people. We're also raising capital. So we welcome any relationships with banks, with foundations, with state agencies. We've held a number of meetings with all of the above, but helping to open doors to additional fundraising and financing so that we can get that capital in the hands of the people that can use it most.
That's really awesome. Chad, can you also, I know you put your website in the chat, but could you leave your contact information as well, so that if anyone has questions for you or any follow-up, just want to make sure we're staying in touch. I think that's it. I'm just going to leave it open if anyone has any other questions for Chad or about OHFI or anything like that. But I also, I know one of the last times we met for Impact and Coffee, we allowed for anyone who had community announcements, and so I'm just gonna lay that out for anybody, that any one of your organizations out there. I know I see some familiar faces on the call today, from South Valley Economic Development Center to JA Junior Achievement is here. But if there's anything going on in your organizations, in your communities, feel free to unmute yourself, just so we can get to know a little bit more about what's going on. And I think that will be really helpful too, as we wrap up Impact and Coffee today.
And real quick, just to say also before we do that, I did put my email and phone number in the chat. Raquel Romero is our loan officer. She also put her email and phone number in the chat. So feel free to reach out to either of us.
I'm going to jump in and let the audience know as well. Raquel is a wealth of lending information. So even if you are interested in gathering information on what could become available to you, or if you have individuals who are considering starting their own business, you may want to reach out to Raquel, because once again, she's been doing this a long time and she's a wealth of information.
I'll second that.
Lots of love for Raquel today. Awesome. I love it.
I do have one additional question, because I know all eyes have been on this legislative session that is taking place right now. So I'm just wondering, were there any bills in this current session that affects your work or the work that you're trying to bring forth in New Mexico?
I'll be honest with you, Jermaine, anything impacting OHFI's work, I don't know. I'm sure there are bills that have impacted, but I wasn't aware, and honestly, my head's been sort of singularly focused. I was up in Santa Fe trying to work on the financial literacy bill, which is not necessarily related to us, but we were trying to get the financial literacy bill, which would have required financial education as a requirement for graduation. Had been working on that for a few months, and unfortunately, it looks like it's not going to make it through the Senate. But yeah, to answer your question, I'm not sure.
Thank you.
That financial literacy bill is not making it through the session.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's still alive in the House, but sounds like it's dead in the Senate, unfortunately.
I would like to add a thing. Jermaine, were you finished? I didn't mean to
Yes,
interrupt.
thank you. I am. Thank you.
My name's Trish. I run Teen Years, Tech Savvy Teens, helping senior citizens learn technology, really any age person, through one-on-one coaching. But in a different role, I'm volunteering for the New Mexico Technology Council, which is like a nonprofit association of tech leaders in New Mexico, to do a digital inclusion peer group. And it started earlier this month, but I'm repeating the first presentation, the introduction to digital inclusion, this Wednesday at 4 p.m. So I'm going to put my information in the chat. If anyone's interested, this is going to be a different presentation the first Wednesday of every month at 4 p.m. and hopefully a lot to learn. Oh, sorry, that's my tea kettle. A lot to learn in 1 hour. I'll put that in the chat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trish. Appreciate you. Appreciate the work you're doing. Anyone else have any community announcements they want to share?
Um, I'll say another thing about OHFI. We will eventually, our office locations, where are we going to be? We will be moving into the 100 Gold Street building. And the office is being renovated now. It looks like we're targeting possibly April or early May to move in there, but we'll be located downtown on Gold Street. So that's where you'll be able to find us, and we'll hopefully have let you guys know. We'll do a ribbon cutting or do something exciting once we move in. So we'll keep everybody abreast of that.
That's awesome. We would love to pump that up as much as we can through our email and through our social media. All right. Well, I'll keep the call open. Does anyone have any announcements they want to share? I know the session is closing very soon, so I think we'll probably start to see a lot of bills start to either rush through or get stalled in committee. So with crossed, I know it's hard every year. It's hard. I actually, to be quite frank, I've paid attention to the session this year, but not as much as I have in the past. I do see a hand raised. Who is that? Misty. Hi, Misty. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm good. I just wanted to make the announcement as this Medicaid unwinding begins. Be Well and was working with the HSD department to kind of help get the word out about this Medicaid unwinding. So if anybody is here that needs that would like a presentation or more information, you know, we're open to that, so we can do in person or virtual. A lot of them have been virtual right now. I've presented to most of the health councils. I have one tomorrow for Quay County, but it really is just getting that word out of looking out for the information from HSD, and then Be Well and would be that resource as far as you know, getting the next step. So we're just kind of getting that out and helping them with that message.
Appreciate you, Misty. I saw that you put your contact in the chat. Can you lay that in the chat again, please?
Yeah, so I can put my emails in there. That's the best way to get a hold of me, but I can also put my phone number.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. All right, y'all. Oh, the other thing I was going to say, Chad. So if you're, I know you're probably really busy, but I would recommend looking at the anti-donation clause bill. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but that would adversely affect any nonprofit working with the state specifically. So in a lot of ways, the anti-donation clause, which is fairly old, prohibits the state from directly contracting specifically with like nonprofits in a way, or just even as they qualify that as like literally donating money to a nonprofit, which it isn't. You and I both know, everyone on this call knows, like we would serve as vendors for the state or any government like city or county or anything like that, in which case the anti-donation clause kind of serves as a barrier. It needs some updating, it needs some revision. So I would just encourage you to take a look at that if you can. And anyone else on the call, please look at that and call your senators, because I think that has a strong chance of passing. We'll see. I don't know. But again, it's like, I think we have like 11 days until this session stops. So yeah, please keep an eye on your on the legislative session if you can, and contact your legislators if there's any bills you're following. I think that's about it. That does it for Impacting Coffee. We're going to be back on, let's see, on the 21st, which is my birthday. Oh my gosh. I'll be turning 43 that day. And on the 21st, I'm looking at my calendar really quick just to make sure I have the person correct. That's who our speaker will be. It'll also be on Zoom. But our speaker that morning on the 21st will be Khadijah Bottoms from Vision Sankofa. If you don't know Khadijah, she does awesome work up there in the Southeast Heights. I was just talking to her son the other day about like, what do we want to see for the Southeast Heights in terms of a vibrant community? And they were just telling me all kinds of really great stuff that they're doing in terms of bringing people together. They also just had the Visions Conference, which they talked about Black History Month and the importance of that history, not just in the month, but every single day. And so, and what it means to bring community together, living in the diaspora. So Chago Khadija on March 21st at 9 a.m. over Zoom. We'll make sure to send that email out to everybody on our list. And I'm gonna put that person on mute really quick. But other than that, that does it for Impacting Coffee for this week.
And just one quick reminder, Robert, for those who are new to Impacting Coffee, this session it has been recorded and it will be available on the YouTube channel, correct, Robert?
That is correct. And you can find our YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/impactingcoffee. I know we try to make it easy for people to find as much as possible. So you can subscribe to our Impacting Coffee on YouTube. I just put the link in the chat. And that'll be up. The video will be up in about a day or so. And Chad will make sure to forward that to you once you have once we have that process and everything. But Jermaine or Denise, is there anything else you wanted to add before we get going today?
Just a great conversation. Thank you, Chad, and your entire team for the much needed work that you're doing in community. I am originally from New Orleans, and I know from experience that it takes people in community to rebuild and create strong communities. And so this is creating that opportunity for community to rebuild itself and to sustain itself. And so I thank you for the work you're doing, and it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Jermaine. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
And
Jermaine.
thank you for your time today as well. We appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I do want to thank you guys for inviting us, and to you, Jermaine, as well. And again, to our team members who are on the call, Raquel, who's fantastic, and Darlene Hawkins, who's handling everything, accounting and budget for us internally, who's also phenomenal. So we've got a pretty exciting internal group that I have the pleasure to work with. So it's we're excited.
Awesome. I see some virtual rounds of applause in the chat. So much. Thanks so much to everyone who attended today. I hope everyone has a good rest of your week, and happy Tuesday, and may all your lights be green. We'll see you on March 21st. Chad, thank you so much for being here today and for all of your hard work, and to your team's hard work too. So we will see everyone next time on the flip side. So take care, y'all. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you.
Bye.